What if your body could barely move, but your imagination could travel to the edges of the universe? What if the most powerful tool for exploring space wasn't a rocket, but an idea? This is the story of Stephen Hawking, a man who used his mind to reach places nobody ever could. He mapped the inside of black holes, made complex physics sound like bedtime stories, and taught the world to look up and ask, why are we here? This is the story of how one brilliant mind refused to be limited by a broken body, and in doing so changed how we see everything. Stephen William Hawking was born in 1942 in Oxford, England, a funny place to be born if your family expected bombs, because the war was raging. His parents were clever, practical people who loved learning, and they filled their house with books and questions. As a child, Stephen was curious in the quiet, stubborn way of someone who asks how, not just what. He loved numbers, puzzles, and ideas. He didn't stand out as a child prodigy. In fact, some of his teachers thought he might be slow. But he loved to read and to think, and that would matter more than anyone guessed. He went to university at Cambridge to study cosmology, the study of the whole universe. Think about that, most students study a single subject in depth. Hawking went to study the entire sky. He wanted to understand the beginning of everything, the Big Bang, black holes, time itself. And like any true explorer, he had to go through hard training, long nights, endless equations, and debates with professors who loved to argue. That's where Hawking learned the most important thing a scientist needs: not just to know the answers, but to know the right questions. Then, at the age of 21, a jarring sentence arrived. Stephen was diagnosed with a rare motor neuron disease, commonly called ALS, and doctors told him he had only a few years to live. Imagine being a young student with the whole sky in front of you and hearing that the clock is already ticking down. For most people, news like that would be paralyzing. For Stephen, it was a terrible blow, but it didn't stop him. He kept studying. He kept arguing about the universe. In fact, sitting in a wheelchair didn't slow down his curiosity, it focused it. The mind is stubborn that way. Even if the legs don't work, the imagination still runs. Over time, his body did weaken. He lost the ability to walk, to write, even to feed himself. But his mind only grew sharper. He learned to make short, brilliant arguments about big, complicated ideas, arguments that would change physics forever. So what did Stephen Hawking think about? He studied black holes, those invisible monsters in space that swallow light and matter. They used to be thought of as simple cosmic trash compactors. Stuff goes in, and nothing ever comes out. But Hawking asked a daring question: what happens to information that falls into a black hole? To answer that, he did exactly what great scientists do: he mixed math with imagination. He used Einstein's theory of general relativity, which describes gravity and the shape of space, together with quantum mechanics, the rules for the tiny particles that make up everything. The result was astonishing. In 1974, Hawking showed that black holes aren't completely black. Instead, they glow just a little because of quantum effects near the edge where gravity and tiny particles meet. This glow is called Hawking radiation. It meant black holes could slowly lose mass and evaporate over unimaginable timescales. Why does that matter? Because it connected two great theories of physics that didn't seem to talk to each other: relativity and quantum mechanics. Hawking's work suggested that the universe is stranger and more delicate than we thought, and that even the darkest regions have a voice. Stephen had another gift: he could explain complicated things simply. In 1988, he wrote A Brief History of Time, a book that tried to explain the Big Bang, black holes, and the nature of time to ordinary people. He didn't dumb it down, he wrote it with respect for the reader. The book became a sensation. Millions of copies sold. People who never read science books before suddenly wanted to know what physicists were arguing about. Hawking had made the universe feel cheat code accessible. He used humor, metaphors, and clear language to invite readers to stand at the edge of knowledge and peer in. He also loved public life. He appeared on television shows, joked on late-night programs, and even made cameos on The Simpsons and Star Trek. He was a serious scientist who didn't take himself too seriously, and that combination made him beloved around the world. Behind the celebrity was a person who suffered. Stephen's body was fragile, he needed help to survive. But he also had a fierce sense of independence. He fought for the right to think and to work. He kept pushing the boundaries, writing papers, attending conferences, and arguing sometimes loudly with colleagues about the nature of reality. He also loved music, and he loved long conversations. People who met him often remember his sense of humor and his gentle teasing. He could be stubborn, witty, and incredibly generous. He taught younger scientists to ask hard questions and to work hard for answers. And he had a family life, too complex, imperfect, and deeply human. Fame brought cameras, failing health brought privacy. But through it all, his curiosity never faded. He continued to explore cosmic questions up until the end. Let's go deeper into the science because this is the part that really shows how brave his mind was. Hawking's discovery about black holes leads to a puzzle called the black hole information paradox. If black holes evaporate and disappear, what happens to the information about the stuff they swallowed? Quantum rules say information can't be destroyed. Gravity seemed to say the opposite. That contradiction is like a cosmic logic puzzle, something has to give. Physicists still debate how it all fits together, whether information escapes in subtle ways, or whether our understanding of space and time needs an overhaul. Hawking's work created the puzzle that will keep generations of scientists busy. He didn't solve everything, he made the problem better by showing where to look. He also worked on the very beginning of the universe. He and his colleagues explored models where time might have a boundary without a separate moment called before. That's an attempt to talk about the Big Bang without needing a moment before the universe, which is mind-bending, because it questions the idea of cause and effect at the very start. As Hawking's ideas spread, so did his image: the wheelchair, the synthesized voice, the brilliant smile. But he used that image. He wasn't just a scientist tucked away in a lab. He spoke at global events, met presidents and prime ministers, and used his platform to talk about science and about the future of humanity. He warned us about risks like climate change, unchecked artificial intelligence, and the dangers of small-minded politics. He was a scientist who believed that knowledge could make the world better, but only if people used it responsibly. And yes, he was funny. He loved to crack a joke in a lecture and then watch physics students scramble to find the right equation. That mix of lightness and depth made him relatable to young people in particular. Here was someone who loved ideas and still loved life. When Stephen Hawking died in 2018, the world lost a giant. But that loss is also part of his legacy. His questions, his puzzles, and his books continue to inspire. Students who never thought about physics pick up a brief history of time and find themselves fascinated by black holes. Scientists use his ideas as stepping stones to new theories. Maybe the most important part of Hawking's legacy is this: he showed that limits are not always what they seem. Your body can fail, your situation can be bleak, but your mind, your curiosity, and your capacity to wonder can still reach farther than you imagine. If Hawking teaches us anything, it is this: keep asking why. Keep being stubborn about questions. That stubbornness is not obstinacy, it is the engine of discovery. So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember this: one man in a wheelchair once looked at those same stars and asked hard questions, and in doing so, he pushed the edge of human knowledge outward. Stephen Hawking didn't just explain the universe, he made it easier for the rest of us to see its beauty, its strangeness, and its urgent mystery. If you liked this story and want more videos about people who reshaped the world with their minds, hit like, subscribe, and tell me which genius I should cover next. Thanks for watching. Keep asking questions. The universe is listening.